Can't hear me. I don't have my speaker notes now, so see how this flies. Thanks. Before I begin, I'd like to ask a really quick question to the audience. And put your hands up if you've ever been so scared, so frightened, that a little bit of pee has come out. Yeah, that a little bit of pee has come out. Put your hands up. Put your hands up. Yeah, go on. Okay, that's about 80% of the room. And hopefully by the end of this talk, I will increase that number a little bit. Because today we're going to talk about how to hack a Python application. My name's Asim Hussain. You can find me on Twitter at Jawake. I'll leave it here for you guys to. You can follow me now if you want. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. You can also find me on my website codecraft.tv. You won't find much Python there, to be honest with you, because I mainly talk about Angular and JavaScript. And I'm also something called Cloud Developer Advocate at Microsoft. So I work on the Azure team, and my job is to be a conduit, a gateway between developers such as yourselves and the PM team at Microsoft. So if you've got any questions, if you use Azure, if you don't use Azure, if you hate Azure, if you love Azure, come speak to me afterwards. Oh, I also, who uses Udemy? Anybody use Udemy? Okay, big Udemy country. So I'm also a trainer, a course author on Udemy. And they've recently added automatic subtitling to the Udemy platform. And it replaces my name with awesome. So you can call me awesome. And this talk is going to be Asim. Tough one. So I'm going to talk today about hacking, but I'm going to talk about it through a bunch of real-life hacking stories. Real-life hacking stories. I'm going to break it down, each one. And my goal really isn't really for you to learn anything. It's for you to pee yourselves. So the first story I'm going to talk about is actually my first startup. My last startup, I should say. It's called Event Sushi. It was an event aggregation site. It kind of brought in events from Meetup.com, Facebook, Last.fm, a bunch of different services, aggregated them together, used a bunch of machine learning and NL, natural language processing, to kind of link them all together. And yes, I showed it on a website. And at the time, I was working in investment banking. I was working at Morgan Stanley. I had a really good job, well paid, good career path. But I had this side project. So I did what anybody does in that situation, right? So you quit this great job, and you go work on something that earns you nothing, and try and make a success out of it. At the start, I was very, very arrogant. I was working in investment banking, so obviously I was very arrogant. And I had a bunch of people at the start who wanted to give me money, wanted to invest in me. But I said, no, I don't want your money. This is going to be $1 billion startup. This is going to be the next Facebook. I want 100% of this. No, thank you. 6 months later, you can guess where this is going. Run out of money. Didn't have enough money to pay my next rent. So I went back to all the investors that were interested in investing in me, but they could tell. They can tell desperation. And so they just went, oh, no, okay, thank you. But there was one guy who liked me. He was like, Asim, I've seen how you've grown. I've seen what you've done. I want to invest in you. Give me a demo in 7 days. One more in 7 days, and then we'll talk. 48 hours before that demo, I got emailed by Linode. People know Linode? Heard of Linode? No, they're old now. They're like, platform hosting providers, right? So they gave you VMs, and that's where I hosted my website on. And they said to me, hey, your server's been hacked. Yeah. We can tell it's making requests to a bunch of other servers. If you don't fix it in 24 hours, we're going to shut you down. And I was like, had a life-saving meeting in 48 hours. In 24 hours, I was going to get shut down. Panic. I didn't have money to pay rent, right? So, I cut a long story short, I checked the server. I definitely got hacked. In the temp folder, there was a www data folder where the www data user was basically making a bunch of requests to a bunch of IP addresses using a password file. I got hacked, right? But I couldn't just delete the folder. I had to figure out what the root problem was. So I dug around a little bit more, and I saw something. I saw I had PHP running. I was like, why have I got PHP running? I'm not a PHP developer. This is a Django application. I'm not a PHP developer. And I remembered, when I first had the server set up, I installed WordPress. I forgot about it. I deleted it very instantly, but I forgot about it. It was still in my start script, so when the server restarted, WordPress was running, PHP was running, and it was an old version of PHP, and that's how they got in, okay? I cleaned it all up, got rid of it from the start script, had a meeting with the investor, got the money, still failed, but, but I survived. I survived for a bit longer, and that's all that life's like these days. And that was it. That was the first time I got hacked, right? And the thing is, I don't think I'm an idiot. I don't think... Okay, I did something a little bit stupid. I forgot about WordPress. But I think I did everything else right. I followed all of the instructions. I set up that computer with every single security feature I thought I was supposed to do, right? The lesson of this story, I think, is that if it can happen to me, it can happen to you, right? I don't think I did anything that crazy. Some people in the audience, when I give this talk, are like, yeah, PHP. But I don't think it was that bad. All right, that was the first story. Did you pee yourself? Oh man, by the end of this talk, you're going to wish they gave you something other than t-shirts. So let's move on. I think a few other people are I think they make them a bit tougher in the Caribbean than in other countries. Okay, let's move to the next story. Equifax. Who's heard of this hack? A lot of people. The closer I'm going to the west, the more people know about this hack. The more I go to the east, everybody's like, what? Yeah, what's Equifax? Okay, Equifax. Largest hack in history. I don't have my notes in front of me, so I'm going to throw some numbers out here. I think it was 200 million people, that's it, and 200 million people affected. This is a billion-dollar company, I think had 10,000 employees. So a large hack, the largest hack in history. But just before I explain what this hack is, let me talk through a couple of terms. Okay, a vulnerability is just a hole in your security. That's all it is. So, not setting up a firewall. It's just a vulnerability. Okay, leaving PHP running. It's just a vulnerability. It's just a vulnerability, right? An exploit is a series of steps or some instructions or a script or even just a manual series of steps that you run in order to take advantage of a vulnerability to do bad things. So who's heard of the term zero-day exploit? Okay? A zero-day exploit is just an exploit that no one knows about. That's it. It's a secret. But once an exploit becomes known, gets into the public domain, for whatever reason, it stops becoming a zero-day exploit. Okay, the value starts going down over time. There was a study done, I think it was 2 years ago. No one really knows how much a zero-day exploit costs, right? How much it goes for. You can't go, there's no eBay for exploits where it's publicly available and the prices of every exploit. No, it's all done in private, underhanded deals. But they've done some studies where it shows that a good zero-day exploit can go for $250,000 US dollars, and you actually get paid by installments. So you get paid by installments as long as the exploit remains private. Okay? As soon as it becomes known in the public domain, you don't get any more money because the value of an exploit becomes far less. So given that, How hard do you think it would be to get hold of a zero-day exploit? Pretty hard, right? I'm hoping, are you saying hard? Is some people in the audience saying easy? Yeah. No, it's hard. It should be hard, right? Unless you're in the right circles or you have a lot of cash on your hands, right? How hard do you think it would be to get hold of a public non-zero-day exploit? Something's been in the public domain. Not that hard. Exactly. In fact, it's really, really easy. In fact, you could just Google it. So this is one, this is one called, there's a bunch of websites out there, or databases out there you can look for. This is just one called ExploitDB. It's got a nice UI, so I put it in here. Search PHP, because it's fun. And then you just have a look. And I did this kind of late last year. Oh, it's too slow. Okay. So we're just still in 2017 here, or now we've just gone to 2016. So there's quite a lot of exploits available for PHP, right? And you can just click in, and you'll find instructions for how to execute the exploit, right? So just Google it, basically. That's all you've got to do. All right. But how did Equifax get hacked? Did they get hacked through a zero-day exploit by Mr. Robot? Right? Well, they got hacked through a known exploit, was the issue, right? A known exploit through the web framework called Apache Struts, okay? A known exploit that had already been fixed for 2 months. All they had to do to protect themselves was install an update. That's it. The largest hack in history could have been prevented by installing an update. That's it. Now, there's a couple of laughs there in the audience, right? And I know it's kind of funny, but the actual truth is this is really, really common. This is not like a rare instance. This is Sneakers, a data security firm. They used a lot in JavaScript land, but they also have support for Python and Ruby and a bunch of other languages as well. And they did a study in, I got my notes, I think this is 2016. 12 of the top 50 data breaches were through known vulnerabilities. That's 25%. 25% of all breaches are through known vulnerabilities. Known. There's a bunch of things you can do to protect yourselves. One is, I think they just added this. They're adding Python support to this very shortly, but if you've got your project on GitHub, you'll see the dependency graph will look in your requirements file and show you all of your requirements. This, I'm showing you the one for JavaScript. You're going to have this for Python as well. But it basically will list out for you all your dependencies, and if it knows that that version has a known vulnerability, it will alert you. And in fact, if you go into GitHub right now and you've got something with a known vulnerability, it comes up right at the top, big warning letters, one of your dependencies has a known vulnerability, go and update. This is coming pretty shortly. If sorry, I normally have notes on the screen, but I'm screen sharing without notes right now, so I don't know what I was going to say for the slide. I'm sorry. Hey, probably something really funny, maybe a joke. Oh yeah, okay. So one other thing you can do is I obviously work in Azure, and one of the things, a lot of cloud providers are all kind of similar-ish to each other, right? Google, Amazon, Azure, but some things. Some people are really good at, and some people other things are really good at. The one thing we're really, really good at is security, right? Which is why I've got this talk. So what we've got is something called the Azure Security Center. And in fact, one of the challenges is, if you can get lots of different alerts on your platform, right? And we've all been there before where we kind of get an alert and we maybe build something which sends somebody an email every time there's an alert. And all that happens is that person stops ignoring all those emails, because it's like you just get too many emails, right? That's the same thing with the security. You can get lots of little signals of an attack, but if you alert on every single one, they just get ignored. So what we did is we trained an AI, right? We trained an AI to detect security attacks. And the things that I think is really cool about it is that it actually figures that you got attacked by chaining a bunch of alerts together. So then when you look in the report you get later on, it says, oh, we think you got attacked. And this is how they got in. So you don't have to mess around trying to figure out how they got in. The actual report tells you. That's really cool. Oh, damn. Moved too soon. So we're on the third story already. I moved too fast there. We're on the third story already. Huh? So I'm from the UK, I'm from London. If you have a company in the UK, like a limited company, you actually get registered on something called Companies House. So this is like a public website. You can actually go to it and you can find my company there. My company is called Dale Revo Limited. It's the word overload backwards. Dale Revo Limited. So if you go to companies, you'll find it. This is an actual company in the UK. This is the address of that company in the UK. It's based in Ipswich, a place called Ipswich, right? An actual company. So this is actually also an example of something called an injection attack, kind of one of the most common types of attacks that you get, quite a famous one. And it's something specific called a SQL injection attack. Now, why is that an injection attack? Because you might get people that scan the Companies House database. In fact, there's loads of people that do that because it's a great database to go to. You get the address of a company, then send them a letter saying, hey, do you want a website or something like that, right? A lot of people do this, right? It's a good tactic. I've done this. But you might have a SQL query like this. But if you actually put the name of that company in this SQL query, you get this. So select star from companies where name is equal to, well, nothing. Nothing's going to happen there. Yeah? Drop table companies. And then just a comment, right? And you might be thinking, okay, whatever, Asim. This is just a stupid little script that I've got. I don't really care. And I've got this thing backed up every single day. And whatever. Like, I don't even call my thing companies. I call it comp. I'm like, okay, fine, right? Maybe this won't hit you that way. But there's actually quite a lot of things you can do with SQL injection attacks other than just the drop table command. And in fact, we're all developers here in this audience, right? So how many of us would spend a whole day writing a script for something that might only take us 2 or 3 minutes to do manually, right? I would do that. I spend a whole day writing a script just to save myself from typing in three values in a field. We do this all the time, right? So why do we think hackers wouldn't do the same? Of course they do. There's loads of automated tools now in this world. Loads of automated tools, right? This is one of them, SQL map. It's a SQL map, right? And if you want to start getting a little bit scared, read the automatic SQL injection and database takeover tool. Takeover tool, right? So this is just this is actually from the website. It's kind of their demo. So obviously this is from an intentionally vulnerable application, but you can just run it. Yeah. With what, sorry? With web services? Yeah. Well, I think that's what this video is showing. You put in a URL, like an API endpoint, what you mean? Yeah. And it first scanned it, figured out that it's MySQL. I think then what's it going to do? Oh yeah, now it's doing MySQL. It's doing common passwords that you use for admin passwords. It's got in one of the common passwords. You'd be surprised. A lot of people use a small subset of passwords. You can then now do things like, what's it doing now? Dump tables. Yeah, it's going to dump the users table. But like MySQL's also got a command that you can run called OS shell. So now you can run commands on the same server that the MySQL's running. And now you're going to cat the etc passwords file. How long was that? I think it was less than a minute. All right, in less than a minute, catted the etc password file. So SQL injection. Could do some quite serious stuff with it. It's not WordPress. So, yeah, how are people feeling now? Fine? Yeah, good? You guys are tough in this part of the world. No, he's gone. He's over. So the moral of this story is that you're supposed to don't trust your inputs, right? That's what's going on here right now, is you're taking something called untrusted input. Okay, that name is, I think that's me getting a message, right? Sorry. That name input that I showed you in the original thing, that's just input you got from somewhere else. That's untrusted. So people can take advantage of that and do crazy things. You want to use things called sanitizers. But basically, every time you get untrusted input, run it through a sanitizer. It strips out what it thinks is exploitable or vulnerable, and it lets you use it. Oh, yeah. Azure, remember? I worked there. So if you use Azure and Azure SQL database, we actually have automatic detection for SQL injection attacks. So we've already got kind of sanitizers running on the back end that will grab it and warn you of it. It forms one of those alerts that the AI then detects. Fourth story. Oh, guys, wow. If I don't get you with this one, I'm not sure I will. All right, so who's head of this company? GitHub? Yeah? All right. I've never heard of them before. So GitHub has a bug bounty, right? They take part in bug bounties, or they give bug bounties. There's a bug bounty on GitHub, which as a user called Orange Sai. This is not my story. This is Orange's report for the bug bounty. So if you want to follow somebody, follow Orange on Twitter. Go for it. Follow them after you follow me, obviously. And this is like a really great write-up he did of an exploit on GitHub where he chained like 4 exploits together to be a really cunning meta exploit. And I think it's a really good story. It feels like a heist to me, like a heist story. So I wanted to share it with you. So on GitHub, you can do something called a webhook. Okay, so when you do a git push, you can set it up so it will post to some URL endpoint. It'll do a post. Okay. Pretty straightforward, yeah? What if, instead of example.com, you're localhost? Yeah? What would you be doing then? And remember, you can do localhost :port as well. So when you do a git push, you can then do a HTTP post request to any other process running on the same server behind the firewall, behind all security. Yeah? No, this is GitHub, people. That's untrusted input. Because they knew this. They ran this through a sanitizer, and localhost isn't allowed. But they forgot about 0. Yeah. So on some machines, 0 can resolve to localhost. That's cool. Now he's got his way in. First exploit. Okay, now you can post to any service, any port, any service running on that machine. But what can you really do with that? What can you really do with that? Well, it turns out not a lot on its own. We're going to play a game now. We're going to play what do I call this game? Port, name the process, okay, from the port. So who knows the process that this is the default port for? Oh, Elasticsearch. The gentleman gets a cookie. So that's it, it's Elasticsearch. So if you do a post to this host port shutdown, you shut down Elasticsearch. You just shut it down, that's it. So maybe it's like a denial of service attack, a little bit of a denial of service attack. Now you've got a way of shutting down Elasticsearch. That will shut down search in GitHub. Okay. Would this get Orange the big bucks? He thought not, right? He wanted to go a bit deeper. So Orange spent a little bit more time looking at how he could chain this together with another exploit. Okay? And then found a process called Graphite. So it's also using another process called Graphite. So, and Graphite is also open source on GitHub. So he used GitHub to hack GitHub. Bit recursive there. So it's actually quite good because you're all Python devs, so I don't need to explain this to you. Sometimes I give this at a talk that they're not Python devs and have to take them through it. But let's give it a go. So it basically, this is a function that gets called on a post to Graphite. Okay, so this is a function that gets called. So you grab the URL from the query parameters, you then do some extra stuff to get the actual path, and then you make a GET request to that path. A GET request to that path. All right? But, let's keep it going. So now, what if he used this webhook URL? Okay, remember the whole thing is going to get posted to. The whole thing is going to get posted to. But the red thing is going to extract the URL from the red URL, and it's then going to do a GET request for that. So all he's done here is chain two things together to turn a post into a GET. A post into a GET. That's it. Two things exploited together. Like, but doesn't seem like a big issue, right? Just turning a post into a GET. No? Not a big issue. Well, the thing is, actually, it's using the HTTP connection library. And in some versions of Python, again, I have my notes on me, I think it's 2.7.10 and below, and 3.4.3 and below. I can't remember the exact version numbers. They had a known vulnerability, okay? And it matters, right? Why I'm telling you the version numbers, it matters, right? Not everybody's running the latest versions of all the libraries. When I got hacked my PHP, I just happened to be running at least 6 months old version of PHP, right? A lot of people aren't running the latest versions. That's what we're talking about here. So, what was this vulnerability that it had? It's something called carriage return line feed. So, on Windows machines, carriage return is new line. On everything else, it's \n. So a cross-platform way of doing new line is carriage return line feed. When you convert that to hex, it's ODOA. I call it OD. I know it's not OD, but ODOA. So now, what happens if you do a GET request to this? Well, it gets converted into, well, obviously this. But actually, like, what is a GET request? Actually, what is HTTP? HTTP is just a protocol on TCP. You open up a TCP connection to this host, this port. That's all you're doing. And then you're sending strings. Strings which end in carriage return line feed. And when you end it with 2, that's the protocol. If you end with 2 carriage return line feeds in a row, it means the HTTP message is now over. You go do your thing. Sorry? I'll explain in a second. It's kind of, yeah, it's doing some sort of injection. Yeah. But it's not exactly, it is kind of, but the flavor of it. So, that's what's going on, right? But the thing is, HTTP connection library does this. Okay? It'll convert the ODOAs to carriage return line feed. So now what's going to happen? Well, it depends on the other side, right? You can send whatever you want. It depends on the other side. What is the other side that's listening to this? What's that going to do? Well, if the other side listening to this is a HTTP server, oh, okay. What about this one? You've got another command here. If you converted this. Oh, and also, sorry. Name that process. Who said that? Memcache? Memcache. This is Memcache. Memcache. But close. So, what happens if you did GET request to this? It would basically form that. Is Memcache the HTTP protocol? No. Memcache has its own protocol, the Memcache protocol, right? So what happens if you sent this to Memcache? Remember, it doesn't know HTTP. So what's going to happen is it's going to get sent GET, and it's going to go, I don't know what this is. Why are you sending me this? Then you're going to send it this, and it's going to go, oh, yeah. Memcache protocol, get it. Set data in key. These are kind of timeout parameters and other things. It's going to go, cool. Then you're going to send it this, and it's going to go, I don't care. What is this? I don't care. What is this? Why keep on sending me this stuff? Stop it. That's what Memcache is going to be saying. So what that is an example of something called protocol smuggling. Okay, remember, we didn't use low-level things like opening up a TCP connection, sending things manually. We were sending a HTTP message to Memcache, but inside it, we were smuggling the Memcache protocol. Okay, it's called protocol smuggling. Pretty neat. Clever, right? But now what have we done? So who here stores stuff in Memcache? Come on, everybody stores stuff in Memcache. Whether you think it or not, you're storing stuff in Memcache, right? I guarantee it, at some level or another, right? So, and what we might be using is we might be using a library which converts our objects or pickles our objects to something that you can store in Memcache. But I've just showed you that he figured out a way of how to change what's in Memcache. So now you're going to be taking your object, serializing it, storing it in Memcache, then later on you're going to go, give me back again. You're going to get that code back, you're going to deserialize, you're going to execute your code, but it's not your code. It's Orange's code. So what can you do? Well, let's dig a little bit deeper. Sometimes when you serialize an object using various libraries, it will put the name of the class in the key. So by looking through some of the keys in Memcache, Orange discovered deprecated instance variable proxy. Okay? So deprecated is the key thing. Instance variable proxy had a vulnerability. They released a new version and put deprecated against the one which had the known vulnerability. So imagine, as a developer, they had to change their code to write new deprecated instance variable proxy. There's no excuse here, right? What the vulnerability instance variable proxy had was that you could hack it in such a way so that when it gets deserialized, it executes a command on the server. Just the act of deserializing it executes a command on the server. So the actual thing is here. So this is the whole webhook that Orange is now using. This first thing was just the post. Remember the post? That was innocent times, right? Yeah. Then the rest, this stuff is the get, and then this stuff is the protocol smuggling, and then this thing is the actual data you're storing in Memcache itself. And so this, whatever you stick here, literally you can put whatever you want to stick here is a command that will get executed on the server. So the ID is just a command, like Unix command, right? So Orange basically made a video just to prove they should deserve the money. So go to profile, go into repo, add a webhook, and then it's a long webhook. So you wrote a script to figure out how to do it. Hi. You're right. Then grabs the URL, this is the actual whole webhook, sticks it in there, hits add. Now to trigger this vulnerability, all you've got to do is issue a search. As soon as you put a search in, it grabs the data from memcache, deserializes it, and remember that executes the command. And this is just something they've set up just to show it. So search runs the ID command on the server. Felt a few drops fall out there in the audience. Maybe not. So what's the moral of this story? Well, I think the interesting thing, why I like to talk about this story, is that a lot of us believe that when we're going to get hacked, we're going to get hacked through this giant hole in our security, right? That's going to be really obvious to everybody staring at it. Like, yeah, of course. Got hacked. No. You get hacked through chaining exploits together to form one big exploit. And in fact, if you look at what GitHub did wrong there, I think the only thing they did wrong was use deprecated. Yeah? So there's 4 things that happened there, but only one of them, some developers in GitHub could be pointed at to say you did something wrong. We've got time for everybody to go to the toilet? Or no? No time. Okay, fine, I'll rush through the next one. You have to hold it in, guys, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, and this is another interesting thing. So OWASP got, heard of OWASP? The top 10, right, so that got updated pretty recently, and I think how it got updated was quite interesting. Okay, well, this didn't get updated, but using components of known vulnerabilities was number 9, still number 9. Insufficient logging and monitoring, Azure Security Center. But insecure deserialization just got added in. Interesting, right? All right. Any Django developers in the audience? Yeah? How many of you use Django REST framework? Yeah? Are you sure? You sure? Or do you use Django REST framework? Or do you use Django REST framework? So who reckons? Put your hands up if you think you use the first one. Oh. Put your hands up if you think you use the second one. Put your hands up if you think you use the third one. Oh man, there were like half this audience had their hands up before. Now only 2 people have put their hands up. Okay, the right answer is the bottom one. And the reason this is confusing, for me at least, is that if you go to the website, it's django-rest-framework.org, right? But the actual pip is the bottom one. Why is that important? All right, here's another one. Which is the right one? You sure? Who thinks the first one? Who thinks the second one? It's the first one. It's the first one. Right, this is kind of like I'm not joking about that. You can actually, this is across all languages, and it's quite common actually to do something called typo squatting, right, where you basically publish a package in whatever package registry there is with a slightly different spelling or just a difference in punctuation. I get caught out on this all the time, right? All the time. I was going to throw out some stats to you right now, but I don't have my notes. But there's been a bunch of studies, there's a bunch of experiments done with this in the Python community. People are just publishing out stuff, and there's been several different reports there where people have showed that A, you can, and B, a lot of people download it. And Python's got a particular problem that we've got set up .py scripts which are completely unrestricted, so you can have complete access to a computer, right? I first found out about this in the JavaScript world, actually, because I saw this on my Twitter feed one day. Did you see this? Who saw this? Yeah. So Kent C. Dodds, I was like, whoa, what's this? Why is Kent Dodds publishing some crappy module? And what they'd done is this. So basically, cross-env is the real one, and somebody had published cross-env without it. And what they'd actually done is this. So this is a node module. Don't freak out. But what this is doing is basically getting the environment variables from your server, and then it's posting them to some URL. This is mine, but they're posting it to a server called hacktask. So who here would, I keep secure things in my environment variables on my server all the time, right? That's kind of one of the main ways we should do it. But if you're installing, what do we do when we do pip install? What are we doing? You're giving somebody you've probably never met in your entire life the ability to run code as if it was you. Forget about the rest of the stuff we've been talking about. You've just given somebody the keys to your kingdom. You never even met them. Maybe. And this, when I found out about this, it really scared me. It really scared me, because it really shocked me for a second. And I thought about it like quite a lot. I felt quite innocent, right? I thought about it quite a lot. I thought, why do I feel so scared about this? And I think it's because it's open source. I mean, if I came up to you and I said, hey, use this module, binary, right? I won't give you the source code, but it's 10 times faster than what you're using right now. Go for it. You wouldn't use it. You wouldn't trust me. But this is open source. We automatically think that just because something's in open source, it won't be an exploit. But that code, the JavaScript code, was up for 2 weeks before it was discovered, right? That cross-end one was downloaded, I think, 1 million times every day. It's an incredibly low-level module, right? I don't know how many times the fake one was downloaded. So what are the solutions? Oh, if you use pipenv, right? Pipenv now locally checks to see if what you're installing is a misspelling of the top 1,000 most popular modules, right? Just to make sure that you're not doing it. I know that we're also working on improving PyP, right? So right now they've got a big grant to improve PyP, and they say until we get the new PyP, we can't really. We can then work on implementing new security features to stop that happening. NPM is a prior art for this, right? So NPM's done something recently where they've changed the moniker rules. So if someone's published Django-REST-framework, you can never publish something which is just a change in just punctuation. You can't just install Django-REST framework, right? So that's probably something we probably want to look at shortly as well. So to summarize, okay, keep your software updated. No one wants to be that person who has to sit in front of their CEO and say, oh, sorry, your business has collapsed because I couldn't be bothered to install an update, right? To keep everything updated. It's no joke. It really isn't a joke. This is the main way in, right? So don't assume your inputs are going to come in the way that you would expect them to come in, right? You've got to sanitize everything. There's no such thing as a small vulnerability, right? You chain things together. Fix everything you can. And did that typo squatting example scare anybody? Yeah? I don't have a solution for that, so there's a unicorn. But yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for your time. And again, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'll wait. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. I will be posting the slides for this later on, so if you follow me on Twitter, you will find it. Thank you very much for your time. Cheers.